Hey guys, my name is Neri Chan, and if you like commentary and conspiracy theory videos, you came to the right place. By the way, there is a lot to unpack in this video, so I will be reading off my iPad. If you don't know who Elijah Muhammad is, you probably know Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and Louis Farrakhan. All of these men were a part of the NOI, which stands for the Nation of Islam. During their time, Elijah Muhammad was the leader. Now it's Louis Farrakhan. I remember growing up in the Nation of Islam that Elijah and Malcolm had a falling out. And from what I was told, it was only because he wanted to follow the Islam that the majority of Muslims follow, and he was just upset with Elijah for telling him not to speak on the Kennedy assassination. But then I saw this video.
Who is the father of all of these various children whom you have enumerated?
The first one to tell me who the father was Wallace Muhammad, and he told me that the father was Elijah Muhammad himself. One of the sisters, he went to the home of one of the sisters, and when he walked in the door, she said, "I want to let you see something." And she showed him her child. She said, "Here's your brother, and your father is the father of this child." And then I questioned the sisters myself, because I was shook up. And they admitted to me that Elijah Muhammad was the father of their children. And I took it to him. And it was at that time he told me that he was Muhammad, the prophet, and that Muhammad had 9 wives. He also told me that he was David. He was the modern David, and that he was the modern Solomon, and that it was meant for him to fulfill today all of the things that they did back there.
I thought to myself, these are very serious allegations. I'm going to find an interview on what Farrakhan thinks of the situation, and he's just going to deny that they're underage, and it's going to be another he said, she said situation.
Unfortunately, there would come a time when he would break ranks with the nation and break ranks with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad over an aspect of Mr. Muhammad's personal life.
It hurt me that he would go out of the nation. But then the worst hurt was Malcolm going to Mike Wallace, telling Mike Wallace, and listen to the words now, Elijah Muhammad fathered children from his teenage secretaries. So Malcolm raised it to a moral issue, putting himself in the righteous position, putting his teacher in an immoral position. So we asked him, on what basis are you going to judge the domestic life of Elijah Muhammad if you don't read and understand the book out of which he acted? Do you think that Malcolm X gave up Elijah Muhammad because of some sex thing? Do you really think it's that shallow? How could he? How many wives did Prophet Muhammad have, Brother Baghdadi? Some people say 9, some people say 11. Now, when Malcolm was slandering the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, talking about teenage secretaries, didn't the Prophet take a wife who was a pre-teenager? What was her name? Aisha. When he married her, how old was she? She was 11 years old. But he did not have conjugal relations with her until what year? They say 14. Hell, Malcolm! How you gonna leave Elijah, who had wives, some of them young women? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, knowing that if the believers knew that he had taken wives, what would they want to do? Every old brother dissatisfied with his wife would be looking among the sisters. There's my number 2. There's my number 3. And before you know it, this old jive time brother with no job, he'd be over here talking to you, and all the 3 women would be on welfare, and he's sitting up at home waiting for the check. That ain't being no man. You don't ask a man if he's married, are you having sex with your wife? The question is moot. If that's my wife, I have a right to that.
How could you say it's immoral to be sleeping with teenagers and getting them pregnant, and then 20 minutes later say it's okay for a 60-year-old man to be on top of a 14-year-old? Make that make sense, because it don't make sense to me. You wouldn't care if these girls were underage as long as they were considered a wife? If you are a leader of an organization and you're preaching about good morals, and this is what you're doing in your personal life, and you wanted Malcolm to shut up about it because it's Elijah's personal life, what's the point in even having a justice system? If a child were to come up to me and say, I'm being abused, should I say, sorry little bro, that's your personal life? Most evil deeds happen behind closed doors. And when he said that the reason why Elijah kept these wives a secret was because that his followers would use that to their advantage, that sounds exactly what Elijah did. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't find Clara attractive anymore, and that's why he used this whole wives situation as an excuse to go after teenagers. You're the leader now, and till this day, you decide to justify it, downplay it, and even encourage it because it's too overwhelming to imagine Elijah Muhammad as a predator. If I knew someone like Elijah was doing something like that, I would be calling the cops. So the question is, why didn't Malcolm try to get the law involved?
He's trying to get me to go along with him by stating to me that my life is in danger as well as these other women's life were in danger, and that I should tape record my domestic affair and give it to him and he would keep it in safekeeping or give it to a lawyer. And I didn't fall for that.
He tried to get the law involved. The more I watch Farrakhan's side, the more it looks like he's trying to convince himself and you that it's okay. Farrakhan said that Prophet Muhammad from the Quran said you are allowed to have up to 4 wives.
But when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, went to war, many men lost their lives and left their wives and their children sometimes as orphans. So the Quran permitted the Muslim male to have up to 4 wives.
Look at you, sisters. You're like women whose men are at war, and the ranks of the black male is decimated. Either we're in jail, listen good, we're on drugs, we've turned into homosexuals, and the woman is sitting here without a decent man.
I got 3 problems with this, and here's why. Number 1, he said up to 4 wives, but he had 5. Clara, Tynetta, Evelyn, June, and Ola. 2, these young girls were never married before. So how come none of them were a victim to their husband dying in war, falling into drugs, or false imprisonment if those are the only circumstances? 3, all of this controversy happened in the 60s. World War II was about 20 years prior to this. He could have easily gotten a widow who was in her 40s, 50s, and 60s with kids, but he didn't. Why is Farrakhan making all of these arguments for him, but none of these girls were victims of what he's arguing about? Which just appears like Elijah's a fraud, a con artist, and had a thing for teenagers.
That all the years that I worked with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad before he asked me to be his wife, there was never any kind of out-of-turn words, no sexual harassment. He treated us with the highest form of dignity and respect. When he came to me and asked me to be his wife, he sat down, as our beloved Brother Minister Farrakhan said, and opened the Holy Quran to the place where it dealt with the wives. He loved his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad, and his children. But he said Allah was forcing him to do this for future generations.
These women went on stage and basically said they were groomed, and the whole crowd gave an applause. My personal opinion on that is like these followers are so brainwashed into thinking that everything this man says is the truth, and they will not look back in the other speeches that he had where he contradicts himself. It's crazy. And when you show them full proof of him contradicting himself, they will fight tooth and nail to justify it. Like, I grew up in a nation of Islam. I have personally seen it myself. It is insane. So for those who don't know what grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked. Anybody can be a groomer, no matter their age, gender, or race. Grooming can take place over a short period of time or a long period of time, from weeks to years. Groomers may also build a relationship with a young person's family or friends to make them seem trustworthy or authoritative. Types of grooming. Children and young people can be groomed online, in person, or both, by a stranger or someone they know. This could be a family member, a friend, or someone who has targeted them, like a teacher, sports coach, or a faith group leader. The relationship a groomer builds can take place in different forms. This could be a romantic relationship, as a mentor, an authoritative figure, a dominant and persistent figure. Isn't it interesting how all of these wives that God told him to take were all underage or very young? Instead of focusing on the perpetrator or whether he would do it or not, why not look at the victim and ask yourself, what does she gain from it and what does she lose from it? The more that the perpetrator has the attention and the controversy focused on him, the more power he has over these people, because that means they are listening to him and not the victim. And with this kind of power, they are able to talk and sway them to how he wants them to think. If you have something to lose, then you are more likely to keep it a secret. And by the time they come out with it, it's months, years down the road? Why do people tend to listen to the person with the money, social status, and respect? Would she really come out with all of this and say she was abused, sacrificing her relationship with her family and friends and how the mosque would view her, and supposedly gain attention? To a 15-year-old, family and friends are everything. What I feel like what makes it worse is that the adults in this situation made her feel like it was God's will or an honor to have his child. These kids of Elijah's probably have Facebook pages. They probably post their birthdays or their mom's birthdays. But when I looked on the NOI website, Facebook, and Instagram for Ola, June, and Evelyn's birthday, there was nothing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tynetta was also groomed, because Elijah was born in 1897. Tynetta was born in 1941, a 43-year age gap. Tynetta had 4 kids with Elijah, and all of their birthdays are made public. Sarah, his first wife, had 8 kids. Their birthdays are made public too. But guess whose birthdays are not made public? Ola, Evelyn, and June, the ones who were allegedly underage. And their children, the most I could find is them posting their birth month or their birthday. Everyone and the ministers are making posts about Tynetta and Clara's birthday or their anniversary. And by the way, I couldn't find anything on when Tynetta got married to Elijah, only when Clara got married to Elijah. Yet I found out all of the wives who were alleged to be underage, they either don't have Facebooks or their Facebooks are private. But June has a son named Abdullah Muhammad. He has a Facebook with 8,000 followers. When I tell you, I scrolled for hours on anything related to a happy birthday to himself or to his mother, and the only thing I could find was a birthday post to his son Matin. However, I was able to find this about Ola and her son Kamal. A YouTuber by the name of Barbershop Conversation was able to find this. This video was made about 3 years ago, when Kamal was supposedly born in April 2nd, 1966. I want you to check out these 2 clips, and it's gonna be relevant in a few seconds.
Son was on the mercantile. What is it?
Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Chicago Mercantile Exchange. How old were you when you were on?
24.
24 years old. You just now about 20?
32.
32.
that we are 28 years from the time of the assassination of Malcolm.
Kamal was interviewed by a YouTube channel called The People's Project Joshua Muhammad, and he said this.
At that time, I mean, I was born at the time when Malcolm was a problem, Brother Malcolm was a problem. And, you know, at that time, it really was a very difficult time to be one of my father's children from other than Mother Claire Muhammad, because they were using that as a weapon against him. And I'm actually old enough to remember calls from Malcolm to my mother, Brother Malcolm to my mother, and things like that, you know.
Once the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, how did that impact you personally, and what did you do?
Yes, that's a hard question. I was in school at that time. I was going to the University of Chicago Lab School in high school.
Malcolm X was assassinated in 1965. How can he remember phone calls if he was born in 1966? And in those two clips I just showed you, 28 years after Malcolm X's assassination, it would be 1993. Kamal would have been 26 years old. Why is he on stage saying that he's 32?
You just now about 20?
32.
32.
And when his father died in 1975, he said he was in high school at the time. If you are born in 1966, you would have been 9 years old in 1975.
I was in school at that time. I was going to the University of Chicago Lab School in high school.
It starts to make sense when the barbershop conversation was able to pull up their real birth date. Yeah, that is really crazy when I was researching all this and finding all this out, because I really thought that Farrakhan was just gonna deny everything and it's gonna be a he said she said situation, and since it never came up to court, I was just gonna drop it. But the fact that he basically admitted to it and he's not denying that they're underage is insane to me. But that's all I really have to show you guys. If you love this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.